All right. So welcome everyone to the White Rabbit podcast. It's good to have you with us. My name is Matt Kraus. I'm coming to you from Bondarma, Turkey. And usually my co-host Alpa Rosanes, who would usually be coming to you from Barcelona, but today he's on the road traveling. So it's just me and our guest, Brad Farris. So Brad, say hi to our audience.
Hey, everybody.
And Brad is a repeat guest on our podcast. In fact, he's one of our favorite guests. We had him on the show back in April of last year, and that was the third time. And after that third time, I thought, Brad's lead is permanent. We'll never have anybody with 3 appearances as long as I live. And I was so wrong about that. Because the podcast has been around long enough now that there are multiple people who have been on 3 times. So I started thinking, man, we got to get Brad out of this pool so he can maintain his lead, so he can be back in the lead again. We need to bring him back on a 4th time. And so here we are today. Anyway, as many of you know from those previous episodes, Brad heads up a company in Chicago called Anchor Advisors. And there he does executive coaching and leadership development. He also puts out a regular newsletter, of which I am a huge fan. And Brad, most of our listeners know who you are since you have been on here many times before. But there will be some listeners who are wondering, who is this Brad guy? So help me out with this intro. What else should these new listeners know about you, Brad?
Well, longtime Chicago guy, 5 kids, youngest is 16, oldest is 32. And I've really, for the last 25 years or so, have been focused on helping entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders to increase the performance of their companies and their teams. And for many years, I did that in a management consulting role. And then about 5 years ago, I pivoted to doing it in a coaching format because I really wanted to be on the same side of the table with the leaders that I was working with. And I'm really glad that I made that switch. It's been a very empowering and effective change. And so now I work with entrepreneurs, people that own businesses, C-suite leaders in larger organizations, to help them to be the leader that their business is inviting them into. And so a lot of my clients are stepping up their leadership. They've either been promoted or their company has grown or they have aspirations to do something different. And they just need a little bit of support to be the leader that they need to be in order to grow the business the way that they want to grow.
And back up a second, Brad. I think you also mentioned that you have, if I heard you correctly, 5 kids, right?
That's true.
I have always been incredibly impressed by that. It's like, how on earth could anybody survive something like that? I can see like having 2 kids is pretty normal. Having 3 kids is also pretty normal, but having 5 kids, we're starting to push the boundaries there. So I wanted to congratulate you on that, Brad.
Let's just say that it was an unexpected blessing.
and one more thing before we get started, Brad. If our listeners want to get in touch with you after the podcast, where can they find you?
I mean, the best place to do it is at anchoradvisors.com. And if you go to anchoradvisors.com/conversation, you'll find the sign up form for the weekly email that I send out that Matt mentioned. And that's a great way just to kind of get into the orbit. But you can find out about everything that I do there at Anchor Advisors.
Excellent. So thank you, Brad. And on to the main topic for today, this newsletter I mentioned. A recent edition of that newsletter was called Next Year Won't Be Different Unless You Are. And that's a very timely subject, what with this being January and on. It's about time for people to start giving up on their gym memberships. So it's very timely. So anyway, Brad, Alper and I run into a lot. We run into that a lot. People saying this is the year that I finally conquer that presentation and communication thing, this being a presentation and communication podcast.
Correct. Yep.
So we run into that a lot. People saying, this is the year that I finally conquer that thing.
Mhm.
And they're saying, oh, I'm totally going to, up my game and get me some of the rewards that are going to come my way. And then we talk to them a year later and they're saying the exact same thing. All those
Yes.
good intentions came to exactly nothing. So Brad, in your newsletter, when you said next year won't be different, I totally get that. But this phrase, unless you are, tell me more. What do you mean by that?
So when I work with clients on goals, we work really hard to create a desired future state. Like, what do you want to have happen through our work together? And so there's a future that you can envision, that you can see, that maybe partially dream and partial reality, but there's something that you're moving toward, right? And then once we get really clear on that, the next question I usually ask is, how are you going to screw that up? In other words, if we get to the end of the year and we haven't gotten that, what happened? What are the ways that you habitually get in your own way? And no one has trouble answering that question. Right away, they're like, well, I procrastinate, or, I'm just going to get too busy and I'm going to fill my calendar. And whatever it is, they tell me right away how it is that they keep themselves from doing that thing.
And this honesty from them tell me again, is this coming at the beginning or when you're checking in with them a year later to see if they made it or not?
No, this is actually before we've even engaged. Part of my process of learning whether we're going to be good to work together is that we work on some goals. And so oftentimes this is the first meeting that I'm having with them.
Okay.
And we describe that goal, because the goal, they're coming to me with this in mind. So okay, tell me, why are you coming? What's going on? What do you want to achieve? They've got that. Okay. So how are you going to get in the way of that? And like I said, they know, like, if I ask you, Matt, how do you consistently get in the way of your own success?
You ask me? Well, I would say, oh, well, Brad, do you have like 6 hours? I'm going to need to write a book.
You just give me one thing. It doesn't have to be the whole list. Just
one thing. Oh, one thing would be just sheer laziness.
Yeah, sure.
I have good intentions, but boy, I really like my comfort zone, and I want to have my coffee in the mornings, and I don't want to cut that out.
Right. And so that because there's a consistent pattern in your life where you've seen that that's the choice that you make over and over again. Right.
Yeah.
And so if you want this year to be different, it takes more than just this desire or this goal or some sort of willpower or emphasis. We have to also take a look at those things that we do that slow us down, that keep us small, that keep us safe. Like you're talking about, that comfort zone is, our brains are designed to keep us alive.
Yeah, exactly.
And comfort zones are places where generally we can stay alive.
True.
But the problem is, part of us wants to get out of that comfort zone. There's another part of our brain that wants to break out of the comfort zone. And so we have that battle going on.
So during the year, how are you helping people get past this? Their brain on the one hand is saying, yeah, it's nice and comfortable here in the comfort zone. No pun intended. On the other hand, part of the brain is saying, hey man, get out of your comfort zone. I want to get this thing done. So how do you help people past that?
So we talked about those two parts of our brain, right? The part that wants to get out of the comfort zone and the part that wants to stay in. And so we have to work with both of those. So for the part that wants to get out of the comfort zone, one of the things we do is we break the goals down into very small steps. And so one of the things that I'll often say is, okay, you're clear on your goal. What is the smallest possible step that you can take toward that goal? And so you use the going to the gym analogy, and people, this is a pretty familiar thought. Like, I could get my clothes out. I could get my workout clothes out the night before.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so, just whether you go to the gym or not, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you're going to get workout clothes out and you're going to lay them out at the foot of the bed.
Okay.
And so that's telling the progressive part of your brain that you're doing something, but it's not triggering that part of the brain that's trying to keep you safe. It's like, yeah, okay, we're just getting clothes out. No big deal, right?
No big deal. Yeah, yeah.
And so then the next day or week or whenever you're ready, you say, okay, well, I'm going to put the clothes on. Maybe I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm just going to get those clothes out and I'm going to put them on. And then the next time you're like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym, but I don't have to work out. I'm just going to go. I'm going to walk around. And so we make these incremental movements toward our goals. And it sounds silly when you're talking about going to the gym, but if what you're talking about is, I'm going to be a keynote speaker, okay, what are the smallest steps you could make to have that keynote? Well, I could brainstorm some topic ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And maybe I could outline a couple of them and see if there's one that really catches on with me. Maybe I could find some keynote speakers who have reels and watch their reels and see what they're doing that helps them. And so what's happening as we do this is we're actually becoming the kind of person who is able to give a keynote, but we're doing it so slowly that it's not triggering that worry part of our brain that wants to stop us.
So I have a question for you at this point,
Yes.
Brad. So, okay, and I am probably your worst nightmare.
I can't wait.
Okay, because this next question is going to be challenging for that method, and that's why I say that I'm your worst nightmare, because I hear what you're saying, and I'm like, okay, I understand that process. However, I'm going to start gaming the system now, and I know that Brad wants me to break things down smaller and smaller. So let's go back to our going to the gym example. So if one of my goals is lay out your clothes, I'm going to lay out my clothes for a few days, and then that's going to become my new goal. And I'm going to start failing that one too. So we're breaking our goal, our big goal, go to the gym. We're breaking our big goal down into smaller and smaller goals. And now the failure is even happening at the smaller goals. So
then the question I have is, do you really want to work out?
Okay. So you've got to go back. You're zooming back out to the big picture.
Right.
And reminding me of the value of going to the gym.
We're re-enrolling you in that desired future state. So you have this desire for this place you want to end up. And there are reasons why that's important to you. You know, for me, I go to the gym because I don't want to die. And that if I don't go to the gym, dying is sooner than if I do go to the gym, then dying is further away, right?
True.
And it's whenever I go work with a personal trainer, they're always like, what are your goals? And my goal is to die later. This never works for them. But they're always like, but do you want to lose weight? I'm like, no, I just don't want to die.
Okay. So let me see if I'm hearing how we could fit this into a presentation context.
Yes.
So I have this goal. My big picture goal is I want to be better at presentation skills, whatever.
Yep.
So I've got this big picture goal, and did you say why?
Why? Yeah. Why do you want to be better at presentations?
So part of when I'm still in that big picture mindset, so I need to ask myself the question, why? Why do I want to do this? And then and then I need to break it down and break it down and break it down into really small goals. So instead of walking around all year long with this really big goal of, hey, I want to be better at presentations, I just break it down into smaller steps.
So it's holding both at the same time. What's important is to hold that desired future state. So, yes, I want to be better at presentations. And again, why? Well, I want to be better at presentations because that's going to lead to greater income for me. Great. What's the income for? Well, if I have the income, then I can send my kids to college. Oh, that's important. What happens when you send your kids to college? Well, I give them a better future. And so you want to be better at presentations so that your kids can live a better future. That's an engaging future state.
Okay.
And so when you do the first small steps and you start failing at it, then I'm like, well, you seemed like it was really important to you to give your kids a better future life.
Uh, oh, okay. So if the failure starts happening also at the smaller steps, you're zooming back out and reminding them of the big picture goal that they set and why did they set that goal. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So another question that I have for you is that you talk about, you say that usually we have this have, do, be model. So
Yes,
3 parts: have, do, be. And did you say that we need to flip this?
correct.
So what do you mean by that?
So for many people, their model of change is that there's some external event. I get a promotion. I have more time. My kid goes to college. Whatever it is, there's some external event. So now I have the ability to do something that will help me to be a different way. So in the presentation idea, well, I got rid of that big project that I was working on last year. So now I have the energy to focus on being a keynote speaker. And so then I'm going to do the things that are going to lead to me being that keynote speaker. And so the focus is on the do, right? The gutting it out, the grit, the determination to do the things that then I will be the keynote speaker. Does that
True.
sound familiar as a model of change?
Yeah.
In my experience, it's much more powerful to do it the other way, to say, I am the kind of person who gives keynotes. That's who I am.
Interesting.
So I'm coming from a place of already having accomplished that.
Okay.
And so if I am that person, if I am a person who's a keynote speaker, what are the things that I do because I'm that keynote speaker? Well, keynote speakers speak, right? So I need to get some speaking things. And if I'm going to speak, then I need some topics and I need to practice and rehearse and be good at what I'm doing because that's the kind of person I am. So if we start by changing our identity, then that's what flows out of that identity is naturally some things that we're going to do. And then because we're doing them, we have the results that we're looking for.
So let me ask you a question about this. So I think this sounds like a good idea. It's something that I would like to adopt. But also at the back of my head, I'm thinking, wait a minute, is this, because, on the one hand, I think this sounds like great advice. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, wait a minute, does that sound like something I don't like? Like, how is that different from fake it till you make it, which I
Interesting.
don't really like. So yeah, how is it different from that?
So if we go back to the going to the gym example, we lay our clothes out and then we take a trip to the gym and then we come back and we take a trip to the gym and we walk around. Those are activities that people who go to the gym do.
Yeah.
We're not really faking it. We're actually doing the thing that
Mm.
people who go to the gym do those things. And so
Okay.
we're building in ourselves the habit of being that person. So we're not pretending we're that person. We're not like wearing baseball caps backwards and drinking protein shakes. Right? We're actually doing the thing, but seeing ourselves like the challenge that we have when we first decide, well, I'm gonna go toward being that thing, right? We're trying to earn or achieve a certain way of being. But that achieving, in that process of achieving, we're always feeling like we're less than, like we're not quite, like it's performance based. If I don't do it one day, well then I'm never gonna be that person,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
If instead we work on taking that identity from the beginning, and I'm not pretending that today I'm a keynote speaker. I'm saying that I'm the kind of person who is a keynote speaker, that I'm not doing it now, but I'm going to do it because that's the kind of person that I am.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so it leads me to then when I encounter an obstacle, yeah, people who are keynote speakers encounter obstacles. That's what happens, but they just keep going.
Okay. So while we've got you on the line, I have another question back to the setting priorities and goals and stuff. So I have a question for you. and it's something that Alper and I run into a lot. We run into it ourselves, of course, but we also run into it with our clients. And that is, I don't know what phrase to use to describe it. It's, let's say, low prioritization, maybe.
Okay.
So let's say that, for example, let's use, the presentation skills as an example. So let's say one of my goals is in 2026 or this year, in 2026, I want to improve my presentation skills, and I've got my why down. All that stuff is good, but I decide that it's the fourth priority. And, my first priority is I want to spend, so the first three priorities, they're good priorities. Like priority number one is I want to spend more time with my kid, and I have priority number two and priority number three. So priority number 1, 2, and 3, they're all good priorities. No kid is going to say, "Oh, I wish my dad
had good presentation skills." Right.
Yeah. No kid is going to say, "I wish dad had ignored me more so that he could work on his presentation skills." So the first three priorities are good. It's just that the fourth priority is improve your presentation skills, and you just don't have time for it for perfectly legitimate reasons. You just don't have time for it. But you still kind of carry it around, as this dream that's in your head and something that you want to do at some point. You just don't have time for it today, this month, this year, blah, blah, blah. How do you see that? Do you see that as a problem, that somebody's carrying a low priority around in their head for future doing at some point? Is that a problem?
So when you were first talking about it, I was thinking, well, if this was a coaching session and someone was telling me this, that this is important to me, but there are other things that are more important, what I would say is, great, let's give up on that. Let's not do it.
Yeah. Okay.
There's one group of people who will be like, oh, great, I'm so glad that you let me off the hook on that. Great. They weren't committed to it in the first place, right? Like, and there are another group of people that would be like, no, Brad, I can't give up on it. This is really important to me. Okay, well then let's talk about how we can create time for you to be able to do that.
Okay.
And for the people who are committed, that this is really part of that desired future state, they're gonna see that letting it fall to this point is not acceptable. And we can talk about some of the reasons why it's falling that way. Like, sometimes people deprioritize things because they're actually afraid of what's going to happen if they're successful at it.
True.
Right?
True. Yeah. Okay. And so I think that this is a problem, this deprioritization or this low prioritization. I think it's a problem for a couple reasons. And I'm going to describe those reasons, and you tell me if you think they're good or bad, or, and what's Matt smoking, or, and, and also if you see any other potential problems, definitely let me know about them. So one problem that I see with this deprioritization, that with putting this priority or this thing at priority number 4, is that you feel bad about yourself for the rest of the year. You're carrying around this priority. Oh, I want to be good at presentation skills, but it's number 4. And so while you're taking care of priorities number 1, 2, and 3, which, reminder, they're perfectly good priorities. While you're taking care of those priorities, you always have at the back of your head that, oh, I'm a failure because I'm not coming through on this presentation skill thing. So you haven't cleaned it off your plate, and it causes you to feel bad for the rest of the year. So that's one problem that I see with it. And another problem that I see with it is that you deceive yourself into thinking that you are prioritizing it. So instead of, in January or December or whenever you're setting your priorities for the year, instead of, feeling the acute short-term pain of killing it and removing it from the plate and saying, no, I'm not going to give this the attention that I want to, instead of feeling that pain, a great deal of pain for a short period of time, you basically spread that pain through the entire year, and then you and during that year, you get to deceive yourself. You get to pretend that you're in the cool kids club, oh, well, here are
Uh-huh.
these people
Uh-huh.
who work on their presentation skills and look how great that is for them. And I want to do that too. My intentions are good. I'm a good person. It's just that I have these other three things that I'm doing instead. So you feel bad about yourself. So basically, potential problem number one is that you feel bad about yourself for
Uh-huh.
the year, and potential problem number two is that you deceive yourself and think that you fool yourself into thinking that you're part of the cool kids club when actually you're not. So I don't know. What
That's
what do
right.
you think about those? Am I smoking something here, or are
I
these
don't think you
good?
smoke.
And
Well, I don't know what you're smoking, but I hear those. I hear those problems. So the first thing I want to say is that priorities are hard. Like almost every client that I work with, at no matter what level they are, CEOs especially have this problem. Setting priorities is hard. There are more good ways to spend your time than there are hours in the day. And so the this is this idea of what is the most important thing is something that is hard to figure out.
yeah.
Um, when I do this with an executive, I actually get them to share their calendar with me, and we go through their calendar like meeting by meeting and really look at, is this meeting moving the needle for you and your organization? Like, do you have to be in all of these things? Are these things that you have to do, or are they things that you've habitually done? And what we often find is that people are working down in the organization. They're not their time horizon is not far enough out. And so the higher up in an organization you get, the longer the time horizon of the problems that you're assigned to work on. And so if you're
Yeah.
working on things that are going to be delivered in the next few weeks, if you're a director or a vice president or a C-level person, you, that is someone else's job. You can't do that stuff. And so by going through their calendar, oftentimes we can free up time.
Uh-huh. Ah, so you're saying by going through your calendar, you might see opportunities, the low cost opportunities to make room for that fourth priority in this example. Is that
Correct.
what you're saying?
If it's something that is really important to you, that is burning, like it's bothering me the fact that I'm not making progress on this, let's find the time to be able to move that into your active priorities.
Okay.
And if we look at your calendar and there's just no way that that can happen, then let's say we did our best and this priority is not going to we're not going to take action on this, and we're going to revisit it in 3 months or 6 months or whatever time horizon makes sense.
And before we wrap up, so I have one more question for you on this topic, and that is, it sounds to me, and you tell me what you think about this, but it sounds to me like this would be a you would really need an outside third party for this, because if I'm the client, and I'm analyzing my calendar, I'm going to look at the spots on my calendar, and I'm going to be thinking of, all the reasons to keep something.
Yes.
Oh, we need to keep this relatively low priority thing because, Bob is a slacker and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm going to think of all the reasons to keep the thing on the calendar when actually what we want to do is clear stuff off the calendar so that I can make space for priority number four. And I'm not going to be able to do that. And so I'm going to need an outside perspective to help me with that. What's your perspective on it?
We're coming full circle here, because really what's happening there is that comfort zone question. If I don't go to that meeting, what's going to happen? Like, will Bob really get it done? And so that part of our brain that wants to keep things the same and keep things safe is going to have a bias toward going to all those meetings. And I know I can do a good job in those meetings. Those meetings aren't challenging to me, right? And so, yes, it's helpful to have someone that really questions that and says, really, if Bob, let's say Bob fails, then what happens?
Yeah.
Well,
Ooh,
then I
yeah.
start going to the meeting again, like, so a lot of these have very low consequence. And so really questioning, because again, that part of our brain that wants to keep us safe is going to tell us that we have to do all those things. But that's also what's keeping us stuck.
Good point. Good point. Okay. So we've got to wrap it up here, but so I wanted to thank you again for coming on the podcast, Brad. And it's always a pleasure to have you back here. So we're always happy to hear from you. And so Alper and I will be back at the next episode talking about something else presentation related. There you go. How's that for a profound way to wrap?
I mean, I can't wait to hear it. It's going to be a fascinating conversation.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'll talk to you later.